The Drop Back with Sam Lewis, Matt Burns-Peak and Joe Costanzo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Drop Back podcast. I'm your host this week, Joe Costanzo, and I'm joined, as ever, by the man, the myth, the legend, Samuel Lewis.
Oh, I was worried that wasn't going to be me for a second. Hi, Joe.
That's AIDS. There's no way that he's them.
We're also joined by the young and hungry Stan Wilson.
Hello, Joe.
For his fourth time. I don't know when we'll stop saying it's your nth time, but you know,
could have done it just then.
It's your fourth. You know.
Yeah.
And also Matt's here. So.
Oh, hi, Joe. That's a fucking trash intro, by the way. We re-record that shit. You ballsed it, Joe.
No, we won't. I think we'll move on. So anyway,
you fumbled the intro.
There's actually quite a lot to talk about this week for once, considering it's the off season and there's no sports. Well, kind of sports as we mentioned last week, but
that's Bundesliga.
There is Das Bundesliga, but let's talk about things in the UK for a bit, as we've been neglecting that for a few weeks. But BAFA came up with a quite a controversial recent decision after announcing that the season has been cancelled due to obviously the global pandemic that's going on. It got moved from the end of May to indefinitely now until they can figure out things as they go along. But some clubs are still asking for the complete subs to stay alive financially. And players are expected to pay the yearly insurance, which is based on the 12 months of training and games, not however many games they might be able to squeeze in. So I guess my question for you guys, questions, is should BAFA offer some sort of full or partial refund to the players of the game? That'd be my first thing.
They are doing a 50% refund.
Yeah, partial's fine. Partial's fine because you still need to use the insurance for your training sessions. And of course, if the pandemic does go away at some point this year, there is an option for clubs to undertake in friendly games at some point.
In which case, the insurance would still stand. And it hasn't been the most clear what they're using it for, but they are using a certain amount of those subs just for the continuation of BAFA, and that is needed. If we want a season next year, we are going to need some sort of funding for the BAFA to stand. But the issue is, I think a lot of people have, is that there's not a whole lot of clarity on what exactly that money is being spent on.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of the negative feedbacks come from.
It's a bit shady.
Yeah, among the playing community, like the players more than anyone are going to be concerned about where their funds are going, especially the ones a bit more strapped for cash, because it's not a small amount of money that they're asking you for, and to have 50% of that go away in a season where you're not playing any actual games, I can understand some people's questioning of the actions. However, you've also got to consider, the insurance is still being used, and club training will resume at some point this year, hopefully.
Yeah, but even if they give you, was it 50 or 15%?
50.
So if they give you a 50% refund, are they expecting, I guess at that point, if conditions do improve, are BAFA going to organise either a revised schedule or potentially have just a friendly? Yeah, but are they going to reimburse
to arrange their own friendlies and But it means the insurance would still cover those clubs and the players when those friendlies are taking place.
So they get 50% of the insurance, but are they going to get 50% of the games in whether or not they're friendlies or not?
Not necessarily, but that insurance also covers trainings and what has already happened from before Christmas. So the insurance has already been used somewhat already. So I'm not saying that there should be 100% refund. It's just people would like a bit of clarity on where the money is being spent.
I think that's the main issue, isn't it? Like, people, I think, understand with the current situation, and 50% seems like a pretty fair sort of middle ground. But I think, like you said, Slew, it's not knowing where the other 50% is going. We all know from our own personal experiences how expensive American football can be to participate in this country, especially with sort of the lack of funding and stuff around it. It is most times up to the players to shell out a hell of a lot to be able to participate. So, as you said, Stan, 50% is not it's a pretty big sum that is disappearing into nothingness because we're not really sure where it's going.
Well, that 50% as well is, sorry, Stan, is for the BAFA membership fees. There's also the individual's club's membership, which I suppose is going to be up to the clubs how much they're willing to reimburse. And some clubs that are struggling financially may not be reimbursing quite as much as some other ones will be. So that'll be interesting to see going forward.
But the membership to BAFA, that includes things like referees, which obviously aren't going to be a thing. Even with friendlies, they're likely not going to have any referees or staffing for those games. So, you know, I know obviously taking the best out of the situation and organising friendlies would be great, but what is your BAFA membership fees really going towards?
Well, part of it goes towards the CEO and building partnerships for BAFA in the future. Like, if you want it to grow, you have to fund it. It can't continue to expand. If people want American football to be a big deal in this country, it's going to cost people for that to be a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird one, isn't it? I mean, there's no real right answer to it. It's one of those. It's kind of a bit salty on either side. Whether you look at it, I obviously, like you said, people understand the situation that we're in right now, and they're not going to blame clubs for needing some way to stay afloat, and BAFA for needing some way to stay afloat and keep the game growing in England. But yeah, we're just. I mean, I did see one interview UK AFL did with Pete. I've completely forgotten. Pete Ackley, the head of BAFA, the president.
Top dog.
Yeah, he didn't really go that much into exactly where the breakdown of it, but he did say that they would be releasing a finance sort of statement.
But they always release a finance statement. All it says is what the overall expenditure and what the income is. So
but I'm saying that overall expenditure will obviously be a bit more pertinent this year when people are expected to pay fees towards games that they aren't going to be staffed and they aren't going to be
competitive.
Competitive at all.
They're going to have to go into way more detail this year as well, I think, because people are going to be interested in where their money's going, and you can see from what's happened over social media over like the last week or so since it's been announced. People are angry. People want to know where their money's going, and I'm not sure the amount of anger is justified because of the fact that it'd be ridiculous for the fact that to BAFA to continue the season going on during this pandemic, and they physically can't take on laws anyway. So,
I completely agree. They were completely right to cancel the season at this point, seeing as though there is an 100%. End game. Because there's so much overlap between university football and adult ball anyway. You can't have them both running simultaneously, and just for the sake of it was the right decision to cancel it at this moment. Again, as I was said, is people aren't sure where the funds have been spent, but they can't do a full refund because I imagine a large proportion of the fees that they've already collected have already been spent. So you can't. Yeah. The question is, where do you draw a line? Do you ask money back from everyone else? And that just burns bridges, doesn't it? Really, that you can't really.
In a sport that you're trying to develop into in this country as well. Like it's. I think it's always a little bit touchy with American football when it comes to the finance side in the UK because it is so sort of in that. It's so expensive, and there's not that much outside help to grow it. It's, clubs having to furiously fundraise themselves. And like we said before, players having to dip in heavily as well. So there's always a lot of tension around finances in American football in the UK. And I think this, obviously, the decision the BAFA have had to make has, again, put the spotlight into that sort of corner of it. But, I mean, it did like Slew and Stan, you both are actually playing American football out of all four of us here. Well, you were. What have you spoken to your teammates and stuff about it? Like, what's the general sort of vibe from players about the decision?
Players are annoyed,
frustrated.
Yeah, definitely. But the coaches have just been saying to us, look, there's no point going out onto social media and taking your anger out on Pete Ackley and the BAFA committee because that's not going to achieve anything. And just to really just keep your public image basically, and don't go out and. Because the pressure on BAFA on social media and stuff at the moment, I think is pretty much unjustified because they had to cancel the season and there was no way this season was going to go ahead, even with a revised schedule.
Yeah, it's the same for any team sport. Like the only thing they're really bringing back in the UK at the moment is things like golf and tennis.
And no one even cares about that. So
yeah, exactly. But it's weird, obviously. I mean, I would say you never really know if they might be able to get some sort of competitive games in near the end of the season if they kind of reverse that. So Pete did
Honestly,
say,
I don't think it's worth it. It doesn't really achieve a lot. I think the best situation is letting clubs arrange their own friendly so they can test themselves.
Agreed.
It's not worth
100%.
having a couple of matches
But
that then affects the divisions and stuff next year. I just don't think that's
but that's
a fair
what I
way of
mean.
doing
Like
it.
for the teams that might have had a chance to move up into the top, the upper divisions this year aren't going to have that opportunity now. And with that, if they get a year later, people are going to potentially stop playing and all those different aspects start to come in. And it's the same as when we were talking about if the NFL season was cancelled and people get a year older, and it's
healthier
a shame
as well. I think the people that it will affect most are rookies that have paid their subs.
Because they potentially won't come back.
That's what I mean. It's hard enough to get new people to come and play American football, as we all know. So for it to disappear and then not, because I don't know, we didn't even get a friendly game sorted this year, no pre-season or anything. We just had a few training sessions at the point that it was cancelled. So I know there will be some rookies that are frustrated. A lot of the ones that I've spoken to were all in anyway, so probably will come back, but that's not going to be the case for a lot of rookies at
every club.
Yeah, it'll be really, really tough. It's all down on the coaches really, just to keep their passion going for the sport and just keep them interested, because we were just fresh out of training camp. We were raring to go for the season, and then the news comes in that of course the season's cancelled. And I just hope that everyone on the team decides to stick through it and let their love for the sport prevail and keep them into next season.
How many weeks did you have training, Stan?
We train all year round pretty much. We have 2 weeks off for Christmas, and we do non-contact work over the summer. But apart from that, we train all year round pretty much.
Oh, that's all right then, I guess, in a sense, because you're, like you said, the insurance is already kind of being used.
Yeah.
We started a couple of weeks because, again, we're adults, so there's some overlap with.
Oh, we're adults. Yes, Stan,
Stan's a child. So
we've got some adults on our team. It's under 19s.
Okay, yeah.
People have got beards and stuff.
Stan and his team will lay you out, Slew.
Yeah, there's 9 of them. Well, with the numbers advantage, you'll be fine. So let's organise a friendly. But yeah, so we started a few weeks before Christmas, so we did get a good few months in, but it's nowhere near the amount of time we want to be playing.
No,
we didn't get really any competitive.
Yeah, to restart a season now, you'd need at least 6 to 8 weeks really to get prepared after this layoff as well. It's effectively an off-season that everyone's had.
What I did see is that a bunch of head coaches from around Britball penned a letter to BAFA. I don't know if either of you guys said it, about some changes they wanted for membership fees going forwards.
No.
Okay. First of all, they want the existing memberships that have already been paid this year, as well as the refund. They want that to extend through to the 1st of April next year. So it would cover all the pre-season trainings. So rookies, especially that have paid for pre-season,
they at least get the full.
Wouldn't have to pay it again next year. Obviously, they would have to extend it should they want to go into the season and play some games. But also, they want a breakup of what the fees are. So at the moment, it's a £50 flat fee that covers pre-season and the games. So they want, especially for rookies or people returning to the sport after a few years out, is you pay £10 to cover insurance between the beginning of the season and the 31st of March, and then you pay a £40 fee to expand it to a full membership, and that allows you to play the games.
Is that how much an adult membership is? Because we've
50 quid.
Yeah, under 19s, it's only like a tenner or 15 quid or something.
Yeah, 50 quid for.
Wow.
Everything sucks when you become an adult, mate.
Yeah, Stan. I mean, you've got a lot of experiences to do, man. If you think that's one of the things that gets expensive in adulthood, you should try.
Yeah, do you know rent's a thing? We want to hear everyone else's feedback on this. We don't want to just talk about it ourselves. If you do have an opinion on it, and if you're a member, if you play in one of the BAFA leagues, other than our residents Stan and Sam, we'd like to hear about it. So drop us a DM at the Dropback on Instagram, or email us on dropbackmedia@gmail.com. We're trying to organise some sort of interviews with a few potential BAFA staff, coaches and players too. So if yourself or someone you know might be interested in that, please give us a shout. Bell us, contact us. You
get to speak to Joe over the phone.
Joe's phone number is going to flash on the screen now.
Exactly. I mean, we'll cut out the middleman, Joe. Joe's number is...
Beep. Okay. NFL facilities opening. So Roger Goodell said to teams last Friday, sent a note saying team facilities may reopen on Tuesday the 19th of May, which is tomorrow at the time of this recording. We record on Mondays. Sorry, lads.
Don't.
Joe, you just spoiled the illusion.
I know. We don't broadcast live. I'm sorry, but
wait, we don't.
On the following conditions, so there are no more than 50% of the staff, with a maximum of 75 allowed in the facility at any one time. No coaches as of yet. They're expected to join as soon as possible. Only players undergoing rehabilitation or medical treatment are currently allowed into the facility. And new protocols will permit one infection officer or thereabouts. I can't really remember what the actual official term was, to be there at all times. Who's basically like a HR for the pandemic. So if you have any issues
for the virus,
you think you might be sick, you contact virtually or through a phone to.
Do you have an email for them,
officer. Yeah, it's Matt Burns -Peak. Nothing. And no, so
so basically, what we're saying is the NFL facilities are open except as rehab centres.
Yeah. And
that's really unfair because every other team apart from the Chargers is going to be really affected by that. I mean, the Chargers, it won't matter because they're already injured anyway.
Well, that's on the note of the Chargers. The most important thing about this whole memo was staff can only return to the facilities if permitted by local regulations or governing state law. So obviously in America, there's 50 states. They all have different governing bodies who have 52. A different response to this pandemic. So there, for instance, with teams like the Arizona Cardinals and any of the Florida teams like the Jaguars or your boys Dolphins,
what about Tampa?
As well as Texas.
Did you forget that the Tampa Bay is also in Florida?
It's easy to forget about them.
I didn't list out an express team by state list.
That's right. You hit the main ones, Joe. Carry on, bud.
Exactly. I got the more important ones. We won't worry about Tampa for 1 week.
Do you reckon he knew? He knew it was coming. That's why he went to Tampa, where it'd all be allowed in Florida.
Yeah, definitely.
He's just playing on it. He's on a different plane.
Patient zero. Patient zero, just coughing on Bill Belichick in his sleep.
Classic Patriots.
Why does he sleep with Bill Belichick?
Don't worry about that. He kisses his son on the mouth too. So yeah, I mean, with states like Arizona, Florida, Texas easing restrictions on both businesses and sports in the wake of the pandemic now, I guess my question to you guys is, what does it mean for states which have had more of a strict reaction to this whole thing, like LA, like New York, where they're obviously bigger,
more heavily affected?
Yeah, it means they're a competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. Does it give an advantage?
Yeah, 100%. Because Alabama, they just cancelled their game with the USC for October or September or sometime. So like you can already tell it's having a massive impact on sports.
They don't want it, lads.
Exactly, they can't hack it.
They can't hack it because they're legally not allowed to. But I don't know. It's weird. I thought, just on note of like the whole scheduling thing, this has kind of been brought up, raised to my attention quite recently, is that some of the scheduling is, for instance, the Chargers and the Cardinals don't share any time where they're they're both playing at home, and it's also the same case for the Rams and the Raiders for Las Vegas. So maybe the NFL is actually kind of positioning themselves in a way where teams in LA, specifically LA's like the hot spot for it at the moment because their governing laws is quite strict compared to the other states, but teams like LA, the Chargers are going to play at the Cardinals Stadium, and the Rams are going to play with the Raiders. Do you think that's going to happen?
I mean, it could do. Know. The LA teams are going to need to play elsewhere if the governor keeps up their stance on this.
Yeah, but I mean, it might mean that we do get audiences even in some of these states now as well. Because
I don't think we will. I think that's.
Trump reckons they will.
You forget Florida is a thing.
Yeah, Trump reckons that the Alabama LSU game's still going to be like a sellout event, pretty much.
Probably will.
The thing is, from the NFL point of view, surely you've got to be against that. Yes, you get revenue, but the chances of transmitting it to a steward who transmits it to someone else who transmits it to a player, it's just so much higher. Not even for the public safety, just for the safety of keeping the league going. It doesn't make sense to open the stadiums up. It just increases the chances. Yeah. Especially, you've already got so many people involved in NFL teams anyway.
Do you, there might be, for instance, I saw a meme actually, a nice juicy meme on Instagram of during.
Is that where you get your news from?
Oh yeah, of course. Most of it anyway. It's only the important stuff, the headlines, But so on the 1918, obviously the Spanish flu pandemic, they still had college football, and what they were doing was basically the players were like partitioned in a way where they were certain meters apart, like not players, sorry, the audience. So you'd be sitting in the stands.
I was going to say it must have been shit being in the.
So they'd only have one every like 3 rows able to sit on, and they had to be like a certain distance apart each time. So it's basically like a queue system for the whole stadium.
So obviously, basically like a Chargers home game.
Yeah, almost. Imagine that.
Such low-hanging fruit
for everyone. Yeah, that's a bit rude.
Yeah, I mean, did you guys see the Bundesliga?
That was
games
weird.
I saw the Dortmund game.
Did you see the subs benches? The subs benches where it's like 2 meters apart.
Game when they just like.
Yeah, do you imagine if they tried to do that?
You need the whole stadium just for that.
The huge, each 53-man roster with the 2 meter distance between them all.
You get your sub-nickel corner all the way up on row Z. He's got to run all the way down for a dime package.
Where's the kicker?
Mate, it's weird.
It'd be carnage. It'd be carnage.
But
yeah, I mean, it might mean we get to wait a little bit longer until we have to see those disgusting new. But yeah, I mean, it might mean we get to wait a little bit longer until we have to see those disgusting new Rams jerseys in actual.
It's actually grown on me a little bit, No, it's the font. That's all it is. It's the font on the front. On the back, it doesn't look as bad. It sort of just looks like a UK football.
It's still a bit shit. Did you see what? I can't remember. Was it Dixon who was just absolutely raging about it, saying that made them look soft?
Because football's a man's game.
Mate, he wore goggles.
Sport. Yeah.
All the better to see you with, Slew.
Yeah, no, the numbers on the front look like they've been made on word art on Microsoft or something.
Yeah.
It's a bit Comic Sans-esque. Yeah. But
the helmets though, like they're the best in the league now, those helmets. They are fine.
The helmets looked alright, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like the colour. I do like that blue and yellow. I do think it's a good mix.
Yeah, but that's just their vintage kits again. Like their vintage kits are good.
Issue with it.
It's the same as the Eagles vintage kits.
They should have just kept the vintage kits they've been using for the last few seasons, and like the one they were on the Super Bowl, like that was fine. That was a great kit.
Yeah, it's a good kit.
To be fair, if the Dolphins went back to their vintage kit, like all Dolphins fans on social media constantly clamour for the throwback kit that we used like last season, the season before last, to just become the new home kit because it just looks so much better in every way. So I think there's quite a few teams that I mean, apart from the Packers, because they've managed to produce the ugliest throwback kit I've ever seen in my life.
Another one with the navy and yellow.
Oh, it's disgusting.
The Steelers one.
Oh, the Steelers one's shite as well. But yeah, like there's a lot of nice throwback kits, which I think that
the Linus one was nice.
I think the Bucks have got a really good alternate kit as well, with the all red one.
Oh, the Bucks unis this year, they're amazing. They're the best ones that have been released so far this year.
Yeah, it's not been a good sample size either, to be honest.
They all look the same anyway. Like you've got different bits of colour, but there's only so much you can do with them when they're all sponsored by Nike. Like,
yeah, exactly. They will follow the exact same layout and design.
Oh, except the Rams have decided to put LA Rams there.
Yeah. When does the contract end?
Stupid.
When does Nike's contract
end? I don't know.
Hopefully tomorrow.
That would be cool though, to be fair. Like I think one of the things that would make the league even more popular is if there was, because obviously like American football clothing and apparel is also a big, like an important part of the culture, and it has like a fashion side to it as well. Like if there was more sort of diversity in the kits, then I think popularity of it would grow sort of more globally as well. I mean, it reminds me of the World Cup when half the kits were sponsored by Adidas and half of them sponsored by Nike. You end up having kits that basically looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
You think it would give more competition though if you had competing brands trying to make unique uniforms?
The issue is with that though is because they're franchises rather than individual teams. Nike have a deal with the overall NFL rather than with individual teams.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
but yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is that Nigeria jersey was the most different, and everyone fucking loved it. I see loads of people that have never watched Nigerian football in their life wearing repping that kit down the high street, and it's like I'm just saying, you got to be. I don't know it. So fuck you, Joe. But yeah, I'm just saying, if you want to like grow a sport on a global scale, especially from like the apparel side of it. You need a bit more diversity. Wake up, NFL, you get boring.
The other thing is, though, football kits fit better casually, like with a pair of jeans or trackies. American football tops, they're quite...
I do like a good jersey, though. A nice oversized jersey can look good.
With a hoodie underneath, Slew, you're not repping that in winter. You're lying to yourself, buddy.
Yeah, let's not trust Slew to be the fashionista here.
Wow.
Yeah, Mr. Pink
Are you wearing
hoodie.
a polo shirt?
Yeah, but you wear that pink hoodie every single time we record.
Nice make it so you can watch them all in a row. You think it's all one day. We work hard.
Yeah, we've been doing the same podcast. We're still recording.
Day 33.
Yeah, but going back to sort of the NFL facility thing, that one other thing was announced as well, which is that so I don't know if you guys know this, but there's currently the off-season workout schedule has been taking place completely virtually, and that's being extended to May 29th. So we know at least players aren't going to be coming back until at least May 29th.
Zoom rookie camp.
Yeah.
And then even at May 29th, the likelihood is it'll be in small groups. It'll be like receivers and quarterbacks. The secondary will be together, D linemen.
Yeah, like we said that
it
last
could be
week,
a
didn't
while.
we? It's going to be shit for defenses if they do that.
Yeah, true. But I mean, also in that regard as well, I think American football could be fairly uniquely poised to be able to deal with that a bit better than maybe other sports, because there are like huge differences between positions, right? Like the O-lineman and the secondary do completely different things. And we all know from our time playing American football, you will have a large portion of practice where you go off with your position groups, right? So as opposed to like maybe football, like normal football, where there's a little bit less sort of difference, and you're less likely to have like all of the attacking players go off and all the defensive players go off. I mean, it does happen, but it's not as in little groups. It's in like whole big chunks. So I think that there will be an issue in terms of, fine tuning the chemistry of all the units working together. But I think actually the individual subunits being able to train by themselves isn't going to necessarily be too different than what they might normally be doing.
Yeah, because that's what happens at practice anyways. Like you go off into your position groups, you work on your drills, you work on your technique, and that's just what happens. So,
then you come
pick
back
off Slew a couple times, and you come back and get blown up and run.
I spent about half my training picking off Slew, but
running back
from the running back position.
Yeah, exactly. That's how.
I think that's just got a completion, mate.
You'll fumble.
Anyway, just on that note though, do you also spend a fair amount of your practice doing on air with the other members of the other positions of your team? And at least, like, I know from when I was playing, then I'd spend at least like a third of my practice with the rest of my offense at the time. So it'd be a bit weird not having that aspect, I guess.
Like you'd still need like the secondary versus the receivers and stuff like that on air and shit. But the way I used to cover, there was always at least 2 minutes between me and the receiver anyway, so I didn't think that would be too much of a problem.
Social distancing its finest.
Yeah,
exactly.
and just like the Dolphins cover and will cover next year under their new man coverage scheme.
That might be the one thing they do really well.
Yeah, social distancing.
Yeah, they got like Byron Jones now as well.
Pick a different secondary to at. We've put fucking loads into the secondary.
I just really like atting the Dolphins, to be honest. I think you're probably going to overspend on a bunch of.
They often don't make sense
on free agents again.
Free agency's already happened.
Yeah, I know. And all I'm saying is that there's every few years the Dolphins sign a bunch of people for loads of money, and then they turn out to be kind of shit with the Dolphins somehow.
I think that's just the Dolphins effect in general, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like the Redskins.
We ruin people's careers, but we look good doing it.
All you do for those one game a year when you're wearing the throwback jerseys.
2 games a year.
Talking about ruining careers, there was some speculation as of late. Well, allegations, shall we say? Allegedly.
Allegations.
DeAndre Baker. Well, this isn't. This
we'll
part isn't.
Do the legal tightrope again.
This part is not an allegation. This is just a fact. DeAndre Baker and Quinton Dunbar were released on a $200,000 bond for 8 counts of $25,000 per count of alleged armed robbery and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And then this comes off the back of Ed Oliver recently being arrested for alleged DWI and weapons charges. So I guess
go with Baker and Dunbar first.
So Baker and Dunbar. This is the alleged part, I guess. So the allegedly what happened? They were playing a game of poker and they lost a hand, or allegedly, as I said, they were playing a game of poker.
They rage quit.
Someone allegedly lost a hand, and a rage quit appeared to have happened. Where I believe it was allegedly DeAndre Baker who allegedly stood up with a gun.
Stop using the word allegedly. We get it, Joe. You're not liable for things.
Sorry.
Quoting news articles. Why don't you just say, according to news outlets, this is what happened?
Yeah, according
every second word being alleged.
According to a few news outlets, DeAndre
He's
Baker
still nervous.
stood up
don't want to
from
sue
the
you,
table
Joe,
with a weapon and pointed it at the other members of the game, told Quentin Dunbar to grab everyone's jewelry and belongings and money. And
he also
then
told Dunbar to shoot one of them as well.
That was a different assailant,
Dunbar told this other guy to go and shoot one of them.
Allegedly.
He couldn't resist.
Joe, the whole thing's alleged. If you really want, just put allegedly over the screen at this point in big font.
Yeah.
The drop back.
That would require editing, and that's long.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's just a weird story. I remember my older brother sent me I think it was the BBC News article of it, where it was like they sped away with like 19 grand's worth of jewelry in Lamborghinis, and it just sort of sums it up. Like, why would you need, if you're DeAndre Baker was a first round pick last year?
He's set to make he's set to make
why
$9
do you
million
need
guaranteed, and Quentin Dunbar I think is going to make something along those lines as well. I don't understand why. And Ed Oliver's a early first round pick. That's what
apparently,
I mean.
Did any of you guys watch the Pat McAfee thing he did on this? He's saying that apparently this was a second poker tournament they'd been to, and that the last one they went to, they lost something like 70k.
So they stopped playing poker.
No, but it wasn't necessarily. No, it doesn't mean that they necessarily lost this one. He was speculating that it may be that they won this and people around the table weren't willing to pay up, and so they got a bit desperate. I don't know.
That's fair enough then.
They all rock.
I'm not saying it's fair enough. It was.
Well, I mean, you're only guaranteed $9 million, allegedly. Well,
but
you're not alleged.
That's not alleged.
The thing that I struggle to get my head around is the fact they've got 3 cars and they're positioned in the right direction as well. You rock up, you've got a Beamer, a Merc, and a Lambo, all pointing away from the place, and then as soon as you commit the armed robbery, you're straight out the door. Like, it seems
you clearly never played GTA Online.
Reverse parking's a pain as well. Like, I wouldn't do that shit unless I knew I was going to rob someone, and there it is.
Yeah, it's the same with Ed Oliver.
Have you ever seen Matt reverse into a spot? It's because you're planning a robbery.
Watch out, apparently.
But it kind of brings me to the question: does the NFL, if allegations ring true, then does the NFL have a firearm issue? Like, I mean, obviously America is different.
America's a firearm issue, allegedly.
Yeah.
Not alleged. It's just true. There's too many guns.
You know what? That's probably not worth saying.
Yeah, I mean, like.
Well, yeah, these stories come out every year. Not necessarily to the extent this Darren Baker one, but the Ed Oliver, the one's intoxicated driving a car and has an unregistered firearm.
Yeah, we see a lot of.
I don't know how you heard, but
slow the audio. It's going.
Yeah, you're.
Yeah.
I know. Is it back? Is it back now?
Yeah, you that whole segment was whack, mate. I couldn't hear a thing you were saying.
Slew. You came out swinging and whiffing.
Oh, is it better now?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah. Just do a clap and start.
That clap was clean as well. Good job.
Just redo the whole thing you just said about Ed Oliver. Like, I couldn't hear a thing you said.
All right, it's cool. I thought you meant the whole segment.
Yeah, just go from hi Joe, yeah, good to see you again.
Hi guys,
do you want me to clap or everyone to clap?
I want you to clap.
Just you clap. It's fine.
Oh, Stan got excited. Stan, you can clap with.
I got excited.
You can clap if you want, Stan, but I mean, you don't need to.
I refuse to clap.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Well, this sort of thing, it does happen to some extent every year. Not necessarily to the extent of Dunbar and Baker, but with the Ed Oliver thing, that someone's driving under the influence with an unregistered firearm in the car. Look, how often have we heard this story? And maybe he'll get a game suspension, maybe he'll find a week. Well, exactly, that's what I mean. It's not new. We're saying, does the NFL have a firearm issue? The NFL has some sort of discipline issue, clearly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess all these athletes and stuff don't necessarily have anything to do. And why not just take your gun out on the road? And
should be isolating anyway. Why is he driving around drunk?
Exactly. No, they honestly a lot of some of the states. It was in Houston. So if it did happen, then like they're allowed to.
Boredom's not a good excuse to do something illegal.
It's not illegal. That's what I'm saying. In Houston, it wouldn't be illegal. Like you're allowed to go out. They're basically reopening now. Like Texas is a lot
drinking.
I was more talking about drink driving and how
armed robberies.
I was going back to what Stu said about why is he out
losing poker.
Yeah, you don't actually have to isolate there. That's why they're being considered for a lot of the sort of sporting events as well.
I wonder how shocked they'll be when they get a second wave. What? You mean we should have been keeping further apart, like the rest of the world?
Oh well,
doesn't apply to America.
It doesn't. Or Florida.
If you are from America and listening, thanks so much for your support.
Yeah, we're not slating your rules or your gun control or anything like that. We're just saying from a British point of view. Obviously, you do what you want, mate.
We're all stuck in our tiny little houses with our bad teeth and our tea, so...
Yeah, I wish I could just go out with
you don't have to get that far
under the influence. I'm so bored. Give me a gun.
No.
Oh,
no, please.
God, I'm so bored.
Yeah, imagine if our roadmen and our chavs had guns. Like, imagine the scenes.
I mean, I live in Streatham, and some of them
there
do.
There are some
have
places
guns.
in London you shouldn't go, Stan.
Yeah,
some of them do have guns.
No, I meant on the scale that they have in America, not just.
It'd be fucked. It'd be absolutely fucked.
I mean, some of them have guns, but not assault rifles. That's the issue.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Anything called we're not going to drop back into gun crime, but I think
you introduced the section.
But I'm just saying it's a weird coincidence. I guess on that note, Slew, John Jones, the UFC. Well, it's not just an NFL thing. It's a wider America thing because I don't know if you guys know about this, but John Jones, the brother of Chandler Jones, Arthur Jones, UFC champion. Got caught, this is like a month back, but he got caught during the height of like social isolation outside a strip club with like under the influence, like smoking loads of weed with like coke. Well, apparently.
He's living his best life.
Yeah.
You need to put an alleged in there, Joe, otherwise we'll get
I said apparently, so with like narcotics in his car and stuff, and obviously under the influence with a gun that had just been like fired or something, according to the police report anyway. It's not necessarily an NFL thing. It's just a wider. But I don't understand. Like everyone should just not be doing anything.
Yeah, you don't need to do illegal stuff just because you're bored at home and you're not allowed to do other things. Like
just get smashed and drive your car into a wall or something.
Opposite of what I'm saying, but
don't do that, guys. Joe. Anyone listening, if you're on the fence of listening to anything Joe says, don't.
Always err on the side of I don't. You shouldn't do that.
Always err on the side of caution.
You're like the opposite of a counsellor.
Yeah, I mean, fair, but anyway. So I guess the other thing we kind of wanted to mention is a report came out an article came out in Bleacher Report on the 12th about everyone's favourite lizard man, Sammy Watkins.
So he's certainly in my top 5 lizard men.
He's got some strange beliefs, it seems. After an interview after the Super Bowl. That Bleacher Report had with him, he said that he believes in demons after looking a lot into ancient religious artifacts like Adam, Eve, and the snake. He was talking about the snake a lot and how that said like.
I believe the article said that he looked too far into religious artifacts as well.
I'd argue he did, because I think anyone who believes, effectively a snake is controlling you and you are actually a dinosaur.
He doesn't think he is a dinosaur. He believes he may have been a dinosaur in a past life.
So
interesting.
You've got to try and I think there's several aspects of overlapping like religious belief that just all muddle together in what Sammy Watkins thinks. Like he seems to take aspects from like recreationism and everyone gets like reincarnated and stuff, but then crosses it with like fucking dinosaur or dragon shit, and then there's also a snake telling him what to do. Like it's like he's just read about
Stan
every
has whatever Sammy Watkins does, to be honest.
Yeah, my camera's on a madness today.
Yeah, camera. All right, lizard man.
That's just the demonic souls taking over your computer.
Yeah,
it's weird. I mean, to be fair to Sammy Watkins, like, not to get really deep into like religious stuff, but obviously dinosaurs are a thing. I'm not gonna. That's a fact, Joe. You don't need to put a legend there or anything. That is true. But I was thinking more about how heavily Christian large parts of America are, and that like the genuine belief in like the existence of like Satan and shit like that. Like Sammy Watkins
beings in general,
yeah, but
really.
also the existence of dinosaurs in America is genuinely heavily contested. So
that's because some of them are fucking idiots, man. Like. Some of them.
Get you a man who could do both. He believes in Adam and Eve and the snakes. But he believes he was a T-Rex as well.
Sammy Watkins unites Christianity and science.
Yeah, the one
like
true.
A Buddhist or something.
He's a bit of it.
He's just Sammy Watkins.
He's in that middle ground, isn't he? Where
he's a hybrid.
He's clearly read and watched a lot.
A double threat.
And he's got Instagram.
The other weird thing as well with him is that he, this is something I heard on the Left Coast show, but he's apparently a lot of the things when obviously you hear about like players envisioning their games coming up, and a lot of, they do it to get in a certain mindset. And Sammy Watkins envisions his games to a certain aspect where he'll go and say the amount of exact yards and touchdowns he'll get, or other players in his team will get. And for instance, he had a few occasions last year where he was saying to Tyreek Hill, "You're going to score on this play," and then he'd go score. He predicted that he was going to have exactly like 114 yards and 2 touchdowns that week he blew up in fantasy, like before the game.
Yeah, he liked his matchup.
Yeah, but the exact yards is. I mean, there might be something about the dinosaur thing and the demonic souls.
Crazy.
That's all I'm saying. Like,
God, it must have been tough while he was at the Bills.
What has being a dinosaur in a past life got to do with predicting your yardage for a game, though? Like, I want to know where this all ties in.
He's just a higher being. He operates on a different level. But yeah, it must have been really tough when he was at the Bills. How many yards are you going to get this week, Sammy? 0.
Probably not.
Did mention how much he was struggling at the Bills, actually, in this article. And he clearly has been going through some shit in the last few years. And
to be fair to him, it's like he's probably not in a particularly great place if he's feeding some of these things, especially like the stuff with the demons and stuff. Like, must be pretty tough.
Yeah. On a deep one, and this to get really deep here, but it does sound almost. Deep, yeah, as someone who did psychology as a degree, it does sound like it has something. I mean, this is.
Diagnose him from an article without having spoken to him.
No, yeah, but I would say just from his claims and what he's saying that it sounds like symptoms of schizophrenia. If like just standing back from like someone who's like studied it a little bit enough to
know what he's talking about.
To an extent, yeah.
I see what you're getting at, Joe. Like, yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a bizarre. I feel like there's quite a few characters in the NFL who just come out with like have very strange beliefs.
Yeah.
I guess the trick is like when they're self-destructive and stuff like that. Like, it felt like from reading that article that Sam Watkins has a lot of sort of anxiety and stuff from sources that it must be quite tough for him. So I do feel for
different ways, to be honest. It's kind of.
Well, it's a lot. People forget that they're athletes, but they're people as well. They have to deal with a lot of pressure from a lot of different places, and it has a lot of mental exertion that it puts on people.
Yeah,
and
imagine
people deal with that in good ways, and people deal with that in bad ways, and it would seem from an outside perspective that some of the ways that Sammy Watkins seems to deal with it don't seem particularly healthy.
And imagine, like, so for instance, like with the uprise of fantasy football and everything like that, you get cases, for example, where imagine you're at work for a week and you have a bit of a shit week, and someone drops you a DM on Instagram saying, "How could you mess up those reports? You fucking cost me.
Fuck? I had you in my lineup.
I was gonna win this week against the Bishinator, but I've been absolutely crushed by Karen from accounting."
God.
That would be amazing, actually. Like, just on a side note, can you imagine if you did have fantasy for just like
office fantasy?
Yeah, admin fantasy.
Mate, you've smashed that HR report.
Like I've destroyed the camera.
You
Don't worry about the report. Stan.
Do you do PPR points per report though, or is it actually got to be substantial documentation?
Yeah.
Oh damn! I've got Slew and it's invoice week. Fuck, that's a great matchup. He's gonna have so much workload.
Well, I know Matt's got 2 sales pitches this week, so I don't know. It really depends. He's not really a clutch. He's not a clutch player, though.
Can I trust it?
Yeah, the good thing about Stan is that he can do reports and he gets involved in marketing. So he could score in 2
double
ways.
Threat. Put him in the flex.
Dual threat quarterback.
Anyway, so I guess that's all we had to get through this week, but
we got through it.
We did.
Well done,
we did. I'd like to take a minute here to sit right here and tell you all about why you should click subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a like and possibly comment down below if you're watching our faces, because it really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and we'd absolutely love that. On the other note, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Dropback. Follow us on our Facebook group, The Dropback UK. You can also
everyone pointing in different directions for when Joe puts the little things up.
Yeah, over here and over here. Yeah, nice. So you can also keep up to date with whenever we do post articles on thedropback.com. You can also look at the podcast there. We have a link tree where you can look on Instagram, click to see whatever you want to do it. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, however you do it. Listen to us. I've been your host, Joe.
I've been Sam.
I've been Matt.
I've been Stan, but you can't see me anymore.
I can't wait. Crap. I was just thinking, I can't wait to see what you morph into, Stan, to be honest, like with all the shiny colours and stuff. It's like when you used to watch, we used to listen to music on a laptop and it'd have the light show. That's Stan's character.
It is.
I'm voting he goes into a T-Rex.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Dinosaur, yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Peace!
Hey guys, cheers for watching. If you've enjoyed the content, then drop us a like and let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more UK-based American football content. Catch you later.